Okay, the Modulate case is for a company called Endurance Products, and one of the products that Endurance has is an exercise bike like this one. So it's a really, really low end. You know, you can buy your Peloton if you want. This is much less expensive and much more compact, easy to store if you live in an apartment or anything like that. So just to let's go in here, and I want to go into. I have to let the controls go away, and I want to go into Ivy Learn, and I'm going to take you to announcements because I mentioned this when we did housekeeping, that we needed to replace the case write-up and the Excel workbook. So I put them in announcements because that was a way to make them available to everybody. So if you see this case analysis part 1, we're going to download the case, the document, and I'm going to open it with Word. And enable editing, and you see that there. Okay, so while I'm here, I'm going to go back into announcements, and I'm going to take part 2, revised case assignment part 2. And we're going to download the Excel workbook. And we're going to enable editing on that. Okay, so here's the way the case works. First of all, by means of introduction, this is a marginal analysis. So it's a financial analysis, but it's only on margins. Now, what does that mean? What it means is that we're only dealing with the cost and revenue items that are affected by this decision. So you could go and create a whole income statement, and you could create, very, very detailed, expense layouts and all that. But really, the only thing that you care about for your decision purposes are the items that are affected. So this should not be confused with a full income statement, even though it's going to be in the same format. Okay. Now the background of the case is this: you're the director of purchasing at Endurance Products, and we have the company's mission here, and you can read that. But you also supervise production of the Endurance folding exercise bike with a built-in heart rate sensor. The bike has a suggested retail price of $98 on Amazon, QVC, and other various outlets. It's popular among apartment dwellers and others with very, very limited space for storing equipment. Gross margin on this is 35%, which is not spectacular, but it's a profitable product and it will contribute more as sales grow. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Now, it's simple assembly by the consumer. It's really, really easy to put it together. The frame's ready to use after the pedal box. That's this thing right here, the pedal box, and the seat is put on there. And then there's handles that go up on the top of the folding assembly, and they have built into them heart rate sensors. Okay, so this little box that's up here with the handles will tell you your heart rate, and it'll tell you how long you've been riding. And it's really a simple product. So price is significantly lower than competitors' folding bikes. It's the competitive advantage for this product. It's inexpensive and it fits. Now, when we get into the demand, what we see is that they shipped 82,400 folding bikes in the fiscal year that just ended on January 31st. Okay, so a lot of people buy around the holidays, and for their New Year's resolutions. So an increase in the upcoming year is unlikely due to some recent quality issues. Okay, so demand was distributed evenly. So we're saying we shipped 82,400, but usually New Year's resolutions account for about 20% of a year's sales. So the timing of the shipments for January sales is always key to capitalizing on the demand spike. So you ship about 6,000 units per month, just over 16,000 at the end of December and into January. So the company analyzed the cost and the risk of managing production demand and decided to do it at a constant monthly rate so that you would build up some inventory throughout the year and then ship a bunch at the end. Okay. And so then it gets depleted when the January spike occurs and you start all over again. Has the cost of warehouse space in here. So it winds up costing you about 35 cents per square foot per month. Okay, then we describe the process. So all the parts of the bike are imported from non-US suppliers, and then they get packaged and shipped here in Indiana. The only assembly performed in Indiana is attaching the heart monitor to the hand handles. So if we go back up and look at what that looks like, so this is what's saying we have this handle piece here and the heart monitor comes in separately. It gets attached to these handles and then that gets packaged in with the other parts. Makes it easier for the customer to assemble it. Okay, so the frames, the hand handles, the pedal assemblies are made in Mexico. Frames and handles are made by the Permaneo company in a former auto parts factory just outside of Mexico City. This is all nice to know. The heart rate sensor was made in China through January of 2019, but after 6 months of 25% tariffs with no end in sight, Endurance decided it could no longer absorb the extra import cost on such a tight margin product. So they looked to several potential bidders on the contract, and a Malaysian company, Ketahanan Industries, won the business. The change to Ketahanan as the source has not met expectations. It produced the assembly for $5.50 a part, $1 less than the next lowest cost bidder. Shipping cost is $1 per item, the same as it was when it was shipped from China. The problem is that about 4% of the sensors stopped working within 90 days of use. Not good. The failure rate had been less than 2% when they were made in China. So basically the quality issues doubled for that bidder. And because online reviews are disproportionately filed by dissatisfied customers, the folding bikes ratings fell. For example, on Amazon, before Ketahanan, they were getting 70% 5-star, 15% 4-star, 15% 3 stars, and no 2s and 1s. Afterwards, well, they still did pretty well in the, of people getting them 4 stars, but their 5-star ratings dropped a lot, and instead they were getting more low ratings, and that's a problem. The marketing data suggests that high and low ratings influence sales either positively or negatively by 10% of the year's forecast. So Endurance can deduct the cost of defects that it identifies, but in the packaging process, but they really can't recover them if something's been sitting in the warehouse for months. So your assignment gets to be this. As the director of purchasing, you're going to lead a team to recommend a course of action. And you come up with 3 options. One is you can just buy and stock extra replacement parts. And you can add 1 person to the customer service team to handle the extra complaint calls that come in. And you can then pack up the replacements with directions and quickly send them to customers. Okay, and here's some data about that, about what that can cost. And then you can also say, number 2 is I can revisit the bidders and I can look at the one that cost $1 more per part, get my failure rate down where it was before, and continue to replace those parts. But you don't have to stock as many and you don't need as much customer service time to do that. The third one is, and this still has missing the $sign, I still have to fix that. The third one is that you make the sensors yourself. So you have some extra warehouse space that's currently used for storage. If you want to spend $340,000 on capital equipment and $10,000 for the installation, so for a grand total of $350,000, you can gear this up and do it yourself. And the inbound shipping cost is going to go away. the highly automated process is going to require only 4 full-time employees who are going to earn 20 bucks an hour plus the cost of benefits. And the failure rate is going to fall below 1%. And that operation is going to take 50% of the warehouse space, leaving room to store packaged bikes until annual sales exceed 110. So basically, until you go up over 110,000, you're going to be able to use existing excess space that you have. But otherwise, you're going to have to acquire an additional 20,000. So I'm going to show you the spreadsheet, but first of all, are there any questions about that case write-up? Does it sort of make sense? You're going to get to read it again and again as much as you want, but I walked you through it. Does it sound realistic? Does it sound like something that you can understand what the mission is here?
With this project, are we going to be, like, the format of it, is it going to be like pitching it to the company, like head directors, or is it going to be pitching it to clients?
It's going to be making a decision, and it's a decision for the company to make. So it would be the former. So it's really, you're going to go back to your boss and you're going to say, boss, here's what we need to do. Okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. So you have 3 choices. Well, what we've done is we've prepared the financials for you. So the first tab here in the spreadsheet is the forecast. And so the first one is, if my reputation is neutral, I'm going to sell about the same every year as I always sell. I'm going to sell, 82,400 units. Okay. If my reputation scores are positive, then I'm actually going to grow. I'm going to grow every year. So the first year, yeah, I'm geared up to sell 82,400 like I always have. But after that, I'm going to keep growing, and there's going to be a growth rate here. And that's going to translate to additional revenue over and above. See, this is where I said this is a marginal analysis. This is over and above what I'm already making. This is the additional revenue I'm going to get. And this is going to be the change to the gross margin year by year. Now, if I have a negative reputation, if I continue to have 4% defect rates and my reputation is negative, I can expect sales to fall continuously. If I don't rectify it, if I don't make it any better, sales are going to fall. It's going to cut into my gross margin, and the gross margin is going to fall every single year. And then there's also some stuff that says, here's how many replacement parts I'm going to have to stock if my reputation doesn't change, how many replacement parts I'm going to have to produce, how many I'm going to have to produce if my reputation is positive, which is much lower, and if my reputation is negative, then it's much lower. Okay. And you see I have a tab here with data, and it has all kinds of constants that we use throughout these calculations. Now, the next thing is that if you notice, there is a option 1 spreadsheet, an option 2 spreadsheet, and an option 3 spreadsheet. Now, what you have to do is you have to determine for each option what it's going to do to the reputation. So right now, they're all set to neutral. So if you look at that and you say, I go with option 1, if that's going to keep my reputation neutral, then this is what the next 5 years is going to look like. On the other hand, if I am going to have a positive reputation, then all of a sudden, this is what it's going to look like. This is, it's going to cost me more for imported items because I'm going to sell more. I'm going to have replacement stock. What is going to change, and it's going to change into something else. Okay? And if I'm going to have a negative reputation, then here's what it's going to look like. Okay. And so you can do that for each scenario. The only thing that changes, option 1 is continue to use the same supplier. Option 2 is go to the new supplier And option 3, and you see the capital expenditure comes into play here, and depreciation expense comes into play here. And option 3 is going to tell you about, this is the make it yourself. So for each one, you're going to have to decide what the effect is going to be, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, or whether it's neutral. Because you could decide that you could be very positive. I'm going to let you guys, you'll be able to look at these numbers yourself. But you could decide that making it's going to be positive, but if you don't recover the $350,000 capital expenditure in any reasonable period of time, you're going to start saying, well, so what? So maybe the best you can hope to do is get back to neutral. Maybe maybe one of the other suppliers is going to be, one of the other options is also going to be positive, and maybe that'll come out better or worse. But I'll tell you that this case and what you decide to do with this case is really based on what you think your reputation is going to be in the market based on that choice. You could have 2 options that give you the same reputation score, positive, negative, and neutral. You can have, a different outcome, a different reputation for each option. That's going to be part of your thought process. And as long as you can defend your thought process, I think, you could logically make lots of choices there. So that's the case. And really, it's not that difficult. But it requires you to really think it through, and then to go down to this bottom line and say, how do I do in each scenario after I've decided what its impact is going to be on my reputation. So, do you have any questions about that?
Is it gonna be a presentation of all 3 options, or do we get to choose?
You get to for presentation, you should mention the impact of each option and which one you recommend.
And when it comes to the positive, neutral, and negative, is that gonna be something that we're calculating, or something that we have an opinion on?
It's going to be basically your opinion based on, if we go back here, we know where we were. Okay, this is what we looked like, and this was our kind of our status quo. We know where we are now and what we can expect that to cause, and then each scenario says, and so we know we're at 4% right now, and that's not good. We're seeing that in our ratings. We know we were at about 2% before, and that's where we were producing about straight across about 84,000. I think it was 84.2, and then we also know that option 3 is going to get our failure rate under 1%. No.
All right, yeah, I get it now. My bad about that.
So you're going to have a pretty good idea of what goes with each scenario. So the next question is, how does it shake out financially? Because you could, you're not likely to say negative is going to be good. I suppose you could create some scenarios like that, especially if you have a cash cow type of business that's going to dwindle away anyway. But you can also say, you could reasonably decide that neutral and maintain, finding a good way to maintain the status quo or to get that reputation back where it was. You could reasonably say that that's the more profitable approach, instead of making a capital expenditure and getting a very, very positive reputation. Now, that's possible. That's also, it might work out the other way. So that's going to be entirely up to you to evaluate.
Will we get a bad grade if it gets a negative reputation?
No, you'll get a bad grade if you can't defend choosing something that's going to give you a negative reputation.
Okay.
Okay. I'm personally, I'm looking for thought process here. I'm looking for a thought process, and a thought process that you will, you will vigorously defend. That's really it. In most cases, there is no exact right answer. In many cases, there is. Sometimes you're just going to look at this and go, oh, we'd be crazy not to do that. But it's really, you need to think it through, and you need to defend your choice. And that's what I look for in a case analysis. I don't always agree with the case analyses that I get from my students. And in the end, I'll tell you what I think too. After you do it, I'll give you some feedback that tells you what I think. But I've been known to be wrong a time or two myself, so it can happen. I know it's hard to believe. I know that's really hard to believe, but it could happen. Anybody else have a question? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording so that I can save that separately.